Hello everyone. In this video we are going to study about human heart. In the given figure you can see the location of the heart where it is placed. Now when we were seeing the video of respiratory system, in that we studied a term that is cardiac notch. So that cardiac notch was present to accommodate this heart. So here you can very well understand what is the position of the heart. Now this is the diagram of the human heart, which represents the flow of the blood in the human heart. Now this flow of the blood, we are going to study about this flow of the blood. Before that, we will study about the structure of the heart. There are four chambers which are present in heart, and you have to remember that the right side, this is the right side, this portion is the right side, this is the left side. This right side, it carries deoxygenated blood, this left side, it carries oxygenated blood. Now these four chambers, I'll name them. The upper two chambers are called the atrium, the lower two chambers are called as ventricles. Atrium are also called as auricles. Now the first chamber you can see right atrium, second is right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. Now between these two chambers, there are valves present which prevent the backflow of the blood to the previous chamber. And also, if this blood is moving from one chamber to the blood vessel, there also valves will be present to prevent the backflow of the blood. So this has to be done so that the blood does not keeps on coming back to the same valve, that's same chamber. That's why the valves are present in the heart. Now we will see the flow of the blood. I have told you that about the chambers and about the names and which part contains the deoxygenated and which part contains the oxygenated blood. Now you can see here with the help of the arrows that the blood, it comes from all parts of the body, upper part of the body and lower part of the body, through the vena cava. Now this vena cava is a blood vessel that we are going to study about in detail what kinds of blood vessels are there in the heart. Now for now, just see what names are there. So blood from the upper side, blood from the lower side comes from the vena cava, and it comes here and enters the first chamber of the heart, that is the right atrium. We are calling it as first chamber because we are moving this cycle in a way that the blood from the body is coming to the heart. So there is nothing like first, second chamber in that. Now this is right atrium, in which the blood from the body is getting entered. This blood will now move to the right ventricle. From here you can see that the blood is going to the pulmonary arteries. When I'll teach you about veins and arteries and capillaries, I'll tell you what these terms are. What is the meaning of artery, what is the meaning of vein, and all we will discuss later. So this goes to the pulmonary artery. This pulmonary word is related to lungs. It means if it is going in the pulmonary artery, it is going to move to the lungs for purification. In respiratory system, we have learned that the exchange of gases is done in the lungs, especially if the location we are asked, it is the alveoli. Now when the blood gets purified, it comes from the pulmonary veins and it enters the left atrium. Then it goes to the left ventricle, where again it is protected by a valve. From here it goes to the aorta, which gives, or you can say, which passes the blood to whole part of the body. So this is the blood flow. In this diagram also you can see here inferior vena cava, superior vena cava. The blood goes to the right atrium, then it goes to the tricuspid valve. I told you that there are valves. We will see about the tricuspid, bicuspid valve also now later. Now this goes to the right ventricle, this goes to the pulmonary semilunar valve, pulmonary arteries, then lungs for purification. It gets purified and comes back to the pulmonary veins, with the help of the pulmonary veins to the left atrium. Then by the help of the bicuspid valve, like the blood is protected from coming back to the left atrium. So from left atrium, blood goes to the left ventricle, aortic semilunar valve, aorta, and then it goes to the arteries, capillaries. With the help of the capillaries, it goes to each and every part of the cell, and then again deoxygenated blood is collected in the veins, and then inferior vena cava will do this. So this is the complete flow of the blood. You can see here it is diagrammatically represented over here. Here also you can see the diagrammatic representation. So on the basis of this blood flow, there was one question asked, that is, the oxygenated blood from the lung is received by. Now, as I have told you, you can see here this lung is there where the blood is getting oxygenated. It comes here in the left atrium. This is a very easy question if you remember and if you understand it. So by the end of this presentation, you are going to fully able to solve the questions which are being asked here. So you can label this. So it is left auricle or left atrium. I will move to the next slide. Now what I was talking about is this type of blood vessels. So we know that there are arteries, veins and capillaries, three kinds of blood vessels which are present in our body. Artery, if I say the general, what is artery? The general answer which comes here is artery is the blood vessel which carries the oxygenated blood. Veins are the blood vessels which carry the deoxygenated blood. But this is not the basic definition you can see. It is not the basic definition of artery or vein. What is basically artery is it transports blood away from the heart. This is what you have to remember. This vein, it transports blood towards the heart. This is the main function of the blood vessel. Now this artery is thick, elastic wall. It has small circumference. Veins are thin, elastic walls with valves present in them. They have large circumference. So veins have walls. There is a reason for this. Whenever you talk about artery, what happens is, because we know that it transports the blood away from the heart, it means now blood will be moving with a high pressure. That's why they are thick. You can see here in the diagram that they are thick. So it is because their blood pressure is high in that. What is blood pressure? I will just explain it in one or two lines. That is the pressure exerted by the blood in the walls of the arteries and veins, both. So that will be the blood pressure. Now here, veins, they transport the blood towards the heart. It means the blood which is coming towards the heart is deoxygenated and it is running in a slow speed. So there are chances that the blood may get back in the veins. So that should not happen because it is deoxygenated and it has to reach to heart so that it can get purified. So as you can see here in the veins, there are valves present, and arteries, you can see the thickness, you can see how thin it is. So all this can be very clearly understood by the diagram. Now what is this capillary? You can see here these two diagrams. These I have made here. I have given the diagram explaining the capillaries here. You can see here that arteries will be there. They will further divide and form small blood vessels, which will be called as arterioles. Like aorta will form arteries, and which it will form arterioles, and then it will form arterial capillary. Now these capillaries are single cell layer thick. You can see here very thin wall and small circumference. You can see how small it is, and it is single cell layer thick. If you remember, we studied about capillaries in respiratory system also, where alveoli was surrounded by a thick network of blood vessels, that was capillary. If you remember, I told you that it is also one cell layer thick, and alveoli is also one cell layer thick, which aids in the diffusion process of the gases easily. Diffusion will not require energy, so it will be a beneficial process. So this capillary is basically responsible for materials are exchanged between the body and the blood. So as I told you that the blood, it goes to each and every part of the cell. Now we can connect digestive system, respiratory system and our blood circulatory system also. Like whatever food is being prepared, it is broken down into the simplest absorbable form, that is absorbed by these blood vessels, and it is sent to each and every part of your body. And in between that, the blood also goes to the lungs to get purified. Now this respiration is the oxygen, or like you can say oxygen it providing, it purifies it. So with the help of the oxygen, that same oxygen is utilized, and the digested food is utilized by the cells to produce energy. So all of these are related. The functions in our body are related to each other. Now here you can see that these are the blood vessels Here the exchange of material takes place, the deoxygenated blood comes here, exchange takes place, and oxygenated it goes to the various parts of the cell. So that's all we have to see. Now, as I told you here, that artery will be any blood vessel which takes the blood away from the heart. Now you see this diagram, now you will understand it. I told you that the general thing which is there in our mind is these arteries are going to carry the oxygenated blood, but here you can see that the blood which is coming here is deoxygenated and is going to the pulmonary arteries. Now these arteries, generally they carry oxygenated blood, but this is the only case where this artery is going to have deoxygenated blood. So you have to remember this. Similarly, these pulmonary veins, generally veins, they carry deoxygenated blood because they bring the blood towards the heart. Here also this vein is bringing the blood towards the heart, but it is purified because it is coming from the lungs. So this you have to remember. Now like that only we are going to study about valves also in the next video. So this is also clear. Now there was one question on the basis of this topic, that is arteries or the blood vessels, you can say. In Egypt, ancient mummies can be found to have their arteries intact due to well preserved. Now in ancient times the mummies were preserved in such a way that the bacterial infection was not possible in the body, and it was found that the arteries are intact. So what is the main reason for that? So it is the elastin fiber which is there in the arteries. So basically that elastin fiber is so much elastic, you can say, that basically it is present in the arteries so that it can contract and relax. When the blood flows with a high speed, it increases its size, and when sometime when the blood is not flowing with a very high speed, it can come back to its position. So that is the special property of these elastic fibers, that they come to their shape back, normal shape back, when they are not in much of use. So you can see the explanation for this over here, that they have the elastin protein, and elastin is very elastic in nature, so that makes this blood vessel, that is arteries, useful. And I'll just read it out. Elastin is probably the most resistant of all body proteins to chemical changes. So it is resistant to the various kinds of chemical changes, so that's why it was not degraded. So you can mark here. We will talk about the other options also. Mineralized blood. So mineralized blood is basically nothing special, but when the blood is precipitated, inorganic matter will be separated into it. So that is what mineralized blood is. Fibroblast fiber, basically these fibroblasts, they are responsible for producing the matrix and the collagen in the animal tissues. Matrix is anything into which the various other cells are there. So fibroblast, it produces the matrix and collagen. Now fibroblast also produces these elastic fibers, they also produce the collagen, but these elastic fibers are more, you can say, they are more functional in the purpose of elasticity. This collagen, what is the function of the collagen? Collagen is responsible for the tightening of the skin muscles. Like whenever you grow old, what happens is the wrinkles start coming down. So those wrinkles are due to the less collagen present in the skin. If the collagen is more, the skin will be tight and bright. So that is the function of the fibroblast. So elastic fibers we studied, what is it? And brown fat and white fat. There are two kinds of fats, brown fat and white fat. Basically fat is related to the adipose. So this brown fat is brown adipose tissue. This is again white fat and brown fat. We will see the difference between white and brown. It is that this white fat, it stores the fat molecules, bigger fat molecules, but this brown fat, it converts those fat molecules into heat energy. So that is the benefit of this. So nothing out of these three options, none of that, it aids in the preservation of these arteries, but the elastic fiber, it is also responsible because it is, you can say, resistant to the chemical changes which are happening there in the body. So this is the explanation for this. Next video, in this next slide we can see the circulatory system. We know that in heart the blood enters 2 times, so that is called as double circulation. If you can see this simple diagram. As I told you that blood from the body, it goes to the right atrium, then it goes to the right ventricle, then from the right ventricle it goes to the lungs. So when we make, generally we make it like this in the diagram, but it goes to the lungs, it gets purified. So once it comes here in the right atrium, and then from the lungs after purification again it comes to the left atrium. So that is the part of the heart only. So it means the blood is entering the heart 2 times. That's why you call it as double circulation. So there are 2 parts of the circulation here. This one from the body and the heart, and another one is from the heart and between the lungs. So one is called systemic circulation and another one is called pulmonary circulation. Systemic is between the heart and the body, and pulmonary, as I told you, it is always related to lungs. So between heart and lung, it is the pulmonary circulation. That is what double circulation is. Now there is one question which have been asked. To prevent heart problems, blood of a normal healthy person should have. So here the question is from 2 topics. One is from heart and another one is from blood also. Now we studied about, okay, let's start from this topic only. So to prevent heart problems, blood of a normal healthy person should have low cholesterol level, high HDL level, high VLDL level, high LDL level. Options you have to select 1 and 2, 1, 2, 4, and 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3 only. So before we find out the answer, we should know what this HDL, VLDL and LDL is. This HDL full form is high density lipoprotein. Now before we move to the full form of this and explanation of this, we should know that this cholesterol, it has these LDL, HDL and triglycerides. These are the 3 things which are there in the cholesterol. Now HDL, high density lipoprotein. So lipoprotein is a biochemical assembly whose primary purpose is to transport hydrophobic lipid, also known as fat. So generally we use the term lipid for the fat molecules in water, as in blood, plasma or other extracellular fluid. So you now know what is the function of a lipoprotein. Now, there are 4 major classes of circulating lipoproteins, each with its own characteristic proteins and lipid composition. So you can see here in the diagram that there is this lipid and protein. So each will be having these 2 things, these lipid part and the protein part. They are chylomicrons, very low density lipoproteins, that is VLDL, low density lipoproteins, that is LDL, and high density lipoprotein, that is HDL. Now, these proteins you saw, these cholesterols you basically saw, what are these lipoproteins and all. Now we have to see that which is required for the healthy person. Now here you can see that this structure of the HDL. You can see here that HDL, it removes the cholesterol from plaque. So if the arteries or the blood vessels, they get accumulation of this plaque, you can see here in this diagram also, it is very clearly visible. If this gets accumulated, the flow of the blood will be hindered. The blood will get low space to flow, which will cause a bad effect on the heart. So that should not be there. Now this HDL, high density lipoprotein, is known as the good cholesterol because it is having higher level of having higher level of HDL. It reduces the risk of the heart diseases and also strokes. And this low LDL, that is low density lipoprotein, it is known as bad cholesterol because having high level of LDL leads to plaque building in your arteries that can result in stroke and heart diseases. So you have to remember that high density lipoproteins are good proteins. So what will be our answer here? We know that low cholesterol level should be there so that the plaque does not get accumulated, and also in that there should be high HDL because it removes the plaque from the blood vessel. So here the correct option will be 1 and 2. Now here the next question says, lub-dub sound is produced due to action of. So we all know that lub-dub sound is produced by the action of heart only. There is no relation of large intestine, lungs and esophagus. So this is very obvious that the correct answer here is this heart, but we will see the explanation to this. Now you see here I have given a diagram which shows the heart valves. So we discussed that valves are responsible to stop the backflow of the blood. Basically, when the blood enters here, there is this tricuspid valve in the right part. So if one easy way to remember, like right, most of the work is done with the right hand and all. So tri is more, and this mitral valve is also called as bicuspid valve. So left side less work, bi is 2, tri is 3. This is just a trick to remember. So this tricuspid valve is there, which is there in the right side between the atrium and the ventricle. Here mitral valve or bicuspid valve is present between the left side, between the atrium and the ventricle. Now blood comes here, then goes to the ventricle, then goes to the pulmonary artery. So here also there is one valve present, that is called as pulmonary valve. Now when the blood goes there, it gets purified and comes here to the left atrium, then to the left ventricle. From there it goes to the aorta. So here in aorta also there is this tricuspid aortic valve. You can see the difference here. Tricuspid valves look like this, and mitral valve or the bicuspid valve, it looks like this. Now why is this sound lub dub even comes here? The heart sounds, they are due to the closing of valves. The valves, they get closed to prevent the backflow of the blood. So lub sound comes when the force blood against closed AV valve. Now this AV valve, you can see here in the diagram, it is between the atrium and the ventricle. That's why they are called as atrioventricular valve. So signifies beginning of the systole. So systole is contraction. Now dub is force of blood against semilunar valve. The semilunar valve is the valve which is there between the ventricle and the blood vessel, that is pulmonary artery. So it force of blood against the semilunar valve. Close at the beginning of the ventricular diastole. Diastole is relaxation of the heart. So when the blood comes here, suppose here like systole and diastole, I'll explain what it is. Suppose the blood comes here in this chamber. So it has to expand to take up the blood. So that is relaxation, that is diastole. Then it will contract, this will contract so that the blood can move to the next chamber, or you can say next chamber. Yes, that is the ventricle here. So it will have to contract, so that is that is called as systole. So you can see one more diagram which explains. First heart sound, that is lub, it occurs when the atrioventricular valves, they close. Atrioventricular valves have been labeled here. Second sound dub occurs when the semilunar valves close. So semilunar valves, you can see here, both the valves, that is this aortic and the pulmonary, these two valves are there. So closing of, so in simple words, if you have to remember, when does this lub sound comes? When the closing of the atrioventricular valve takes place. When does the dub sound comes? When the semilunar valves, they close. So here the lub dub sound, it is in the heart. So that was a very easy question which was asked. So with this we are done with the topic heart, human heart. Thank you.